Okay, and welcome everybody. It is Wednesday, May 29th. It's a beautiful day here in Connecticut. And this is our summit that I'm calling Cultivating Peace and Resolving Conflict. I started this, what is now a monthly habit, and I'm sure I'll be doing it again next month. So you'll be hearing from me about that. But I started this in March because I noticed on the calendar that March 8th, which at that time was a few days away, is and was International Women's Day. And as many of you know, from different discussion groups I participate in and that kind of thing, I uh, I feel blessed to often find myself surrounded by brilliant women. Often I'm the only guy in the crowd, 20, whether it's 20 or 10 or 6, whatever the case may be. So it seemed like a very logical move to host a 2-hour conversation honoring International Women's Day. So we had 11 great speakers from countries around the world, and that worked out very, very well. And then recently I discovered I guess you'd call him a money coach, uh, uh, um, Mel Abraham, and I'd been sitting in on some of his discussion groups as well. And he mentioned that April was Financial Literacy Month, and so I said, well, that would be a great topic for our next one for the month of April. And this was sneaking up. I was a little too late to once again honor the ladies in my life with a Mother's Day theme or something like that. But for a couple of months, I've been working with a wonderful assistant, a colleague based in the UK, Crystal. And Crystal said, well, why don't you do something on peace? And I thought, what a great idea. I do know a number of people who really focused on that topic. And I think if I called it creating peace and resolving conflict, it would speak to many different aspects in our lives. And it's interesting being a journalist. I have a lot of friends, especially because I have a lot of friends in the personal development space who are coaches, whether they're health coaches or fitness coaches or financial coaches or life coaches. And a number of them say, don't listen to the news. Absolutely no news in your life. It's too stressful. It's a source of anxiety. It's never any good anyway. It's calculated, to get the ratings, sell the commercials and all that. And there's a lot of truth to all of that, of course. And there is a lot going on in the world these days, as we all know, no matter how closely we listen to the news or not. But I thought I'd always remember the Mahatma Gandhi quote, and I don't know if I was surfing the net today and somebody said, well, I don't know if Mahatma Gandhi really said it or if it was extrapolated for something he wrote, but that, change starts with us, be the change. And so, I've been collaborating with Brent and Dia for years now, and Brent will kick us off with a great discussion, and he'll tell you how there really is room for optimism in the world, and I'm just very excited about that. And all of our speakers have great ideas to share, whether it's in the relating to the workplace or the home or the planet. So why don't we just kick it right off? And I know I was a little unfair because I asked people to speak for about 10 minutes. It's hard to contain lots of brilliant thoughts into just 10 minutes, but I thought we could do it that way and then have 10 minutes for questions and answers from everyone following each presentation. And usually somebody who's a host of an event like this will say, don't be in the chat. Okay, if you have a question, get in the chat. But I really encourage you all to participate in the chat. You might want to get to know one another, especially after you hear one of the speakers, each of the speakers, or somebody commenting relating to what one of the speakers is saying. So I know that's a little multitasking. Usually people say multitasking doesn't work, but I found that based on the past 2 summits, it can be very good, and a lot of friendships have been established. I met with my friend Marcia Martin, who's a great coach. She happens to be visiting my town. I live in Stamford, Connecticut, and she said that she struck up a really nice friendship with actually my friend Dia, who's with us. Mentioned, put me in touch with another financial writer, Jackie Woodside, and so Jackie participated in the Financial Literacy Month thing. And so, friendships and collaboration can start this way. But so that's sort of the whole idea. But Brent, why don't you kick us off? Brent is quite a genius when it comes to the world of technology, and is also a great visionary who many, many years ago had the notion that we can come together in peace through cyberspace, which was, I'm sure, like provocative, out of the, what do they call it? Breaking the envelope or something like that idea. But Dia and Brent and their collaborators have taken things to another level, and look forward to hearing all about that. So, Brent Hunter, why don't you take it away, sir?
Hey, thank you so much, Tom, and welcome everyone. Thank you so much for being here today when there's so many other things that we could be doing. So thank you for being here. Before I talk about the World Community Network, I thought it'd be helpful to just share a little bit about my background because it helps inform the work that I do today. I grew up in a pretty dysfunctional, conflict-ridden family, I think like many of us. My mother was Muslim, my father was Jewish, and we were raised as Christians. And as if that wasn't confusing enough, my father was also interested in Buddhism and transcendental meditation. Back then, when I was a child, it was all very confusing. But I've since spent, a good portion of my life thinking about what is the meaning of life, what are religions all about, and how can we achieve a sense of peace in our lives. So um, and because of my father's interests, I actually learned how to do transcendental meditation. He brought us, me and my two sisters, and I learned how to do transcendental meditation when I was 12, and I've been meditating ever since. So if I fast forward from there up until about 30 years ago, in 1994, as Tom mentioned, I started the first intentionally global online community. It was called The Park. And the vision for the park was to create a unified world community in cyberspace. Um, I didn't know it at the time, but apparently I was many years ahead of my time, and it was very, very challenging experience to try to keep that running. I kept the site running for several years. Unfortunately, we got caught up in the dot-com craze and had to shut down. But by the time we shut down, we had about 700,000 members around the world, all of who resonated with this idea of creating a better world, starting in cyberspace. Um, the experience of the park and all of the many, many challenges actually was, I felt like I was in the heat of the fire, so to speak. And it was because of that experience that led me to write a book, which is called The Rainbow Bridge, Bridge to Inner Peace and to World Peace. And that book is actually the common ground in all of the world's major wisdom traditions. And I could never have written it unless I actually went through those raging fires in very, very challenging times. So now, if we fast forward to today, as Tom has already mentioned, we are running an operation now called the World Community Network. In many ways, it's the next generation of the park online community. But it basically starts with a really interesting idea, and that is that we can create any reality on television in the movies. Well, we can do the same thing in cyberspace. We can create any reality in cyberspace. So this is a really, I don't think this idea has been leveraged very much. So what we're doing after many years and after many lessons learned, not only back then, but also lessons learned around all of the existing social media and social networking platforms and the issues that they're creating, we've created an alternative, which is a purpose-driven, positively oriented online community with a vision of bringing everyone together and creating a blueprint for a better world, a world that works for everyone, creating that in cyberspace and then extending it out. But we start in cyberspace where it's relatively easy to do these sorts of things, to create new realities. So that is the vision of the World Community Network. We start without getting into all the details about it, but we do have a five-phase operating model, and we start with phase one, which is creating a new social media platform with very, very innovative use of artificial intelligence. So we've built most of that. It's undergoing beta testing right now. And then another really important component of the World Community Network is to create or is to produce and acquire uplifting and inspiring short form videos that help people be inspired and excited about the future as opposed to being afraid of it. As Tom already mentioned, if you turn on the major mainstream media, there's no shortage of terrible news, right? But there's miracles that are happening every single day, day after day, and we don't hear about them. And when we do hear about them, it's very uplifting and very inspiring. So that's another one of our primary focus areas is to actually produce these videos. Um, and we have a team of about 80 people on 6 continents, including Emmy award-winning professionals and industry leaders. Tom is part of the team. Dia here is obviously a very important part of the team. And we have this really amazing team of people that have come together around this idea that we can literally create a new world, and we come together in cyberspace focused on common ground. And the common ground that we're focusing on is the desire to live in a peaceful, abundant world. And every time I've asked that question to people, not surprisingly in some ways, but everyone says, well, of course I want to live in a peaceful, abundant world. So that's good. That's common ground that we all agree on. So this is something that we can come together and focus on this common ground and take collective actions together. So that's a little bit about the World Community Network. I would probably be incomplete if I didn't give some what I think important nuggets of wisdom, if you will, about cultivating peace and resolving conflict. So just a couple comments, and that is also, as Tom mentioned, peace begins within each person, and that is the single most important thing that any one of us can do to help make the world a better place. Is to focus on ourselves, to figure out who we are, what kind of baggage we have, and we all have baggage, we all have egos, we all have issues, and all of that. So the great, to the extent that we can work on ourselves to create peace inside of ourselves, that will then automatically make the world a better place for all the people that are immediately around us, and then it just extends as a major ripple. So everything begins with individual peace
Yeah, I'm gonna try
looking
to get
within.
to it. And you can tell me if my camera needs.
Excellent.
Can you
Excellent. Thank
mute
you,
me?
Brent. Hold on one second.
Sure.
Can you mute
Um,
me?
yeah, hold on one second. Yeah, sorry, Victoria. Okay, great. Yeah, please continue. Sorry about that, Brent.
Okay. Um, so just everything begins with yourself when we're talking about peace, right? That's just like so important. And then the other thing is focusing on common ground is really important. And an example that I use is I actually have somebody that's pretty close to me, and um, they have some beliefs, political beliefs, which are very difficult for me. And so I just, after several months or maybe even longer, I just decided, well, I'm just going to focus on what's common between us, and I'm just going to forget about everything else. And when I did that, of course, all the conflict just went away. And I know that some of the background information and beliefs are still there, but it allows me to have a peaceful, um, conflict-free relationship with this person. So that's just an example. So the importance of focusing on common ground will not only cultivate peace, but also helps to resolve conflict. So those are the major points that I wanted to bring up today, and I'll just open it up for any questions or comments or discussion that anyone wants to have.
I appreciate that, no, Brent. Really thought provoking and definitely mind expanding. I love that. So thank you. And I encourage. And how can people learn more about the World Community Network?
Oh, thank you. Yes, the website is worldcommunitynetwork.org. And because of our social media platform is in beta test mode right now, so it's not available to the public, but there is a dialog box that pops up. And if you'd like to have access to our social media platform, just put your name and email address in there, and we'll get you the URL that you can actually access the system and take a look at it and participate. So yes, I definitely welcome everyone to come join us, because it's not about a small number of people that are coming together. I mean, that can start a fire, but it's all about all of us coming together in this kind of desire for a better world where everyone can thrive.
Uh, Beautiful. No, I love that. I love that. No, I'm honored to be part of what you and Dia have organized there. It's really, really amazing. So thank you. Great. So then, anybody have any questions for Brent about what he shared with us? Feel free to jump right in. I'm not very good at following
And
the chat. Uh-huh.
well, it's just beautiful, but it's almost like, okay, so do you ever have anybody that's against world peace? Like, oh no, we don't want to do that shit. It's like, I mean, it's just a beautiful idea, but it's just, I just love listening to you, just putting it out there. Like, of course, we're just gonna, create world peace, and everybody's gonna join, and we'll just resolve all conflicts with everybody, and it's gonna be wonderful. So, I mean, that's my perspective on what I'd like to see happen, and I just love the energy you bring to the party, where there's almost like an forced energy. It's like not even a question. We just get everybody to join, and there's world peace.
Well, I remember
Yeah,
when, yeah, no, definitely, Brent, definitely want to hear you speak about that. I'm, Michael, when you mentioned that, I'm reminded of that film that came out, what, 10 or 15 years ago, What the Bleep Do We Know? And they had, I forget who the expert on transcendental meditation was, but again, they talk about when people meditate in mass, 1,000 people, 10,000 people. Brent, do you know what I'm talking about there?
100%. It's like the tipping point, right? Or the hundredth monkey effect, where if enough people come together, it becomes reality. So, um, yeah. So, we're not under any illusion that this is easy or simple. It's a lot of hard work. However, what really inspires me is that the idea is actually simple, and it's logical, and it makes sense. So we start there, and we know that since we live in a world of infinite possibilities, if we start there, there's no guarantee we're going to get there, but if we start there, then we're taking the first steps. We're taking the steps to actually help move things in that positive direction. And the other thing that inspires me is when I look around the world, I don't see any other plans like this to help make the world a better place. And so that just is okay. Well, we need to just keep doing what we're doing with the World Community Network. That we have a very unique vision. We have very unique technology, which we've already built, and I've only mentioned a teeny bit of how the technology is actually, plays a role of almost turning it into magic. I think it was Arthur C. Clarke that said, any sufficiently advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic. And so we're building some of that really amazing technology. But it all starts with a common ground and people coming together.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. I saw another one of my dear friends joined us. I didn't know you were even registered, so I'm glad you're here. Brian Mattamore, you're always thinking about the future. What are your thoughts about this subject?
Well, I have I think a radically different point of view than probably everybody on the call. I hope it's not disconcerting to everyone, but um, I feel strongly that we all have to do our best to work towards world peace. I think we can all agree on that. But I have also a spiritual perspective that this physical reality was created for learning. It's the greatest learning school that's ever been created, but that, and this is the radical point of view, that the world, from my odd perspective here, was not created for world peace. It was created for learning, and all these terrible things that happened are part of soul's journey to grow into greater awareness. And so, yes, I think we should all be doing everything we can to make the world a better place, but also recognize that the purpose of this physical world is for learning, and sometimes that learning is a very negative situation.
Yeah, and actually, Brian, thank you for that perspective. I 100% agree with you. One of my books is about knowledge management, and a key component of knowledge management is all about learning. And so learning, absolutely, I think that is one of the reasons why we're here. And from my perspective, we're learning that we do not live or have to live in a world filled with suffering, that it is indeed possible to live in a peaceful world. And I think that's what we're learning. And the idea of creating this world or starting to create this kind of nucleus of a new world in cyberspace, that is a learning. That is something that we can learn that like, wow, that's interesting. We can do that with TVs and movies. I never thought that we could do that with cyberspace. So that's another kind of learning. So yeah, so I don't disagree with you. I think it is about learning. I'm just focused on what learnings are we actually, what things are we actually learning, and is it the things that we're learning designed to help create a better world for every single person on the planet?
Beautiful. Well said. Well said. Well, thank you, Brent. I know we could I mean, given the topic, we could talk for hours, I'm sure. But and we can do that on the World Community Network platform as well. So maybe you could put some more information about that in the chat so that people can register and follow up. And
Absolutely, great idea.
but I really appreciate your being with us. So thank you so much.
Thank you for the invitation.
Absolutely, absolutely. So